Hello viewers, in this video I'm going to demonstrate how to configure Suse HAE fencing, and I'm going to go through one agenda PPT, and also after this I'm going to show you how to configure in VMware environment, since I'm using currently VMware environment to demonstrate this video. Okay, so the first point is regarding provisioning shared LAN on VM. So since I'm using a virtual environment, I will assign a shared LAN in two VM, and I will also show you how to assign those LAN. Okay, and the next point is basic concept about fencing. So I will go through a slide which says about basic, what is fencing and what is SBD. And third point is regarding prerequisite to configure SBD based fencing. So what are the prerequisites we need to check? So those prerequisites I'm going to discuss. And fourth one is configuring SBD. I will also show you how to configure SBD. And the last point is about the primitive about SBD, which I'm going to create in cluster. Okay, so next point is regarding fencing. So what is fencing? Fencing via standard is a concept in Suse HAE cluster. Okay, so this ensure that there is if there is a failure or split branch situation, so it will ensure that there is no data inconsistency. So there are many different type of standard available we have in HAE cluster. So if you just go to this clusterlab.org link, and you will be able to see what are the different types. Okay, so basic, I have given some of the types of fencing. So what are the power fencing? The first one. So in power fencing, there is a power controller which will going to act as a fencing device. So this is what fencing power fencing is. And second thing is fiber channel switch fencing. We can also use fiber channel port to act as a house fencing device. Okay, and the third one is about other fencing. So there are different types of other fencing that we use in real-time scenario. You probably, if depends on your hardware, which hardware you are going to use. If you are using HP hardware, then you probably can use HP ILO to act that ILO device as a fencing device. And also you can use IBM RSA card if you are using IBM types of hardware. Okay, and the last one is about storage space fencing. So in our situation, we are going to use storage space fencing since we are using VMware and we do not have any options. Okay, so it is not that mean that you cannot use that storage based fencing in physical system. Okay, you can also use this storage based fencing in physical environment as well. You will only need a shared LAN which is assigned to your physical system, and you would be able to configure SBD. Okay, so next slide says about the prerequisite. So if you're using, this is basically for HP hardware. If you're using HP hardware, there is a daemon which is called ASR, automatic system recovery. So when you are using storage space fencing SBD, you need to ensure that this daemon is stop state. Why? Because there is a known bug. If you go to this link, you would be able to see that there is a known bug which says that if you are using SBD and SBD use watchdog daemon, okay, and also HPASR use watchdog daemon. So in order to avoid conflict or create issues, we need to ensure that this service is stops. Okay, so how to check the status? I have given one command here. If you run this command, you will be able to see whether this ASRT daemon is running or not, and how to stop, and while booting how to stop that. Okay, so next point is minimum 1 MB of shared disk to configure this based on it. So you need to have a minimum 1 MB of shared disk where you are going to configure SBD. Okay, so there are other prerequisites in multipath configuration. If you are using physical system, you must need to configure multipath for those SBD disks. Okay, so here is the basic example of multipath.conf file, how it is going to be look like. So it is going to be similar like this. And next part is about once you made the change in /etc multipath.conf, you need to ensure that the change is populated in the nodes in the cluster, running in the cluster. So for example, if you are using multiple nodes in your cluster, if you are running 3 nodes, for example, you are running in your cluster and you made the change in one node and you want to populate that sorry populate that configuration settings to all of your node, then what you have to do, you have to go inside this file /etc sysconfig.csyncs.cfg file, and inside that you would have option to update /etc multipath.conf. So you'll update that line in this file and you run this command. So if you run this command, it will ensure that the changes which you have made in first node, that will populate to all nodes in your cluster. Okay, so next step is to restart or reload your multipath daemon. So you have made the change in multipath.conf, so you need to ensure the change has been made and kernel is aware of what changes you have made. So you need to run probably this command multipath d -k reconfigure or multipath -r or this one, and once you have done with that, you can check the status whether those disks curve showing or not, multipath -ill. Okay, so if you're this is basically for the hardware specific watchdog HPWT for HP ProLine and C class plate system. So if you are most specific to this hardware, if you are using this two hardware type, then you should ensure this drivers and modules are supported for your kernel which you are using for the OS, and also they are loaded while boot the system, right? So how will you ensure that? So you will we're going to check the rpm-qa and the kernel which you are using, and in that kernel you will be able to see whether that is supported or not. If it is supported, it will show like this, and once you are good with that, you have to check the modules whether it is started or not. Here it is saying 0, means it is not loaded. So to load this, you have to run modprev hpwdt command, right? So it will load your modules. So in order to make this changes permanent, or while your system boots, you need to ensure whether this module are starting or not. You have to make these changes in this configuration files /etc config kernel, and in this line you have to specify hpdwt, right? So next step is regarding the configure of SBD. So before you configure in SBD, you have to ensure your OpenAS service, which is cluster management service. It's a main service for HAE cluster, so you have to ensure this service is stop state. And once you confirm that, you can go ahead and you can edit, or if you do not have this file, you have to create this file /etc sysconfig sbd, and inside it you have to specify 2 lines. The first line is sbd_device, and you have to specify which disk or which device you are going to use to act as a SBD device. So if you are using a single disk, then you have to specify /dev sda, and if you are specifying multiple disks, then you have to put them in semicolons, right? And there are multiple options you can specify. What are those options for? One is mandatory, which is for watchdog. Okay, so you have to specify -w, and there are other options. You can see -p, check pacemaker quorum and not help. This is optional. Okay, and this is the mandatory field sbd_device, and the next mandatory field is sbd_ops. So what are the options? I have given an example here. So this is how you can specify your options, and once you make these changes, you have to ensure that these changes has been populated to all the nodes running in your clusters. Okay, so we have to run this command as I told you, like already, sync -xp, and you have to start your OpenAS service, right? So next slide is talking about the initialize SBD device, or how to create a SPD device. So if you are creating or if you are using a single SPD device, you have to run this command SPD-t and the disk, and you have to specify as create. So once you run this, your SPD device will create. And if you are going to use multiple device or multiple disks to act as a SPD device, so you can specify multiple disk name like this: -t slash dev sdb -t again, and your disk name, and last you have to say create. So once you create your SPD, so you're good. The next thing is there are other important SPD commands through which um, you can check or see the status of SPD disk and what are the configuration settings has been created for that SPD disk. So there are basics command I have given. The first one is regarding stoneit -admin -f and the node name. If you do this, will fence the other node and power off. So you would be able to see whether this fencing device which you have just created, whether functional or not. To test this, you can run this command, and for more information you can always check stoneit_admin -f option, and you would see what are those options available. And there are another command. You have crm node fence and fence node name. If you run this, it will also reboot your system. Yeah, as per SPD or fencing. Okay, so the default action is for fencing is to reboot. So if you run this command, it will reboot the system. There are two other actions we have. The one is to shut down your system, and the other one is okay, so I need to check what is the other option. I will probably show you in practical session. And to check the settings for your SPD disk, for example, your disk is less than SDB, you want to see what is the settings for your disk, what is the watchdog timeout and other settings. If you want to see, you probably need to run this command and see the settings. And also to check your SPD disk, in which node they are running, whether it is functional or not, so you can be able to see running this command. Okay, so next slide is regarding the SPD primitive. So what is primitive? I'm going to discuss this not in this video in more details. I'm just going to tell about the basic. What is primitive? Primitive is nothing but a resource type which we use in HAE cluster. Okay, so we are going to create a resource for stoneit disk SPD device, which will part of your cluster configuration. Okay, so I'm going to enable the stoneit first. This command does the enabling, and this one for timeout settings 90-second I'm going to set, and also the resource type and resource agent which I'm going to use for this stoneit, and the default operation settings, whether it is going to stop, start, or ignore. So other options we have it. So, and the interval timeouts and starting delay timeouts. Okay, so once I made this change, I have to make this settings saved. So in order to save this, I have to run this command commit, and once I have saved it, I will quit and I will come out from the cluster configuration settings. Okay, so this is what the agenda for. So now I'll go back to my VMware environment, where I have created two nodes that is already done, and I have showed in my previous video regarding how to initialize a first cluster configuration and how to add a node in the cluster. Okay, so the first thing what I'm going to do is I'm going to assign a shared LAN in this 2 VM. Okay, so I'm going to do as an add, and I'm going to select hard disk and next, and create a new virtual disk. Okay, so once I do that, as I told you, there is 1 MB a minimum disk, so I'm going to use 2 MB here. So select MB, and next is thick provisioning lazy G-Road, and you can see there are the two options. So I'm going to use thick provision eager zone. So you have to ensure when you're using VMware environment to assign shared LAN, you have to ensure this provisioning option. Okay, so next, and also here virtual device node SCSI type I'm going to use 1.0. so this is what it is, and next, and I'm going to finish it. Okay, so once I finish this, I will have to okay to make this change. It is completed here, and if I go again here and edit setting, I'll see once SCSI controller 1 it is created. So I'm going to select this option physical, which says virtual disk can be shared between virtual machine on any service. So I'm going to use these settings, say okay. So once it is done, I'll go to node 2 and I'll go do the same thing here. I'm going to select hard disk, add hard disk, next, and instead of creating a new virtual disk, I'm going to use an existing virtual disk and browse for the location where that disk is. So if I go here, and I can see this is the file 2 MB which I have just created in node 1, and I'm going to use the same disk. Next, and here I also have to ensure that I'm going to use the same SCSI 1.0. next, finish. Okay, done. So again I have to right click, go to edit settings, and here I have to select SCSI controller 1, and I have to select physical, and once I have to select physical, and the options you can see here, and I have to say okay. So now I'm done with the shared LAN assigned to this 2 VM. So I'm going to power on both the VM. Okay, and let me also launch the console to see what those VMs are doing, whether those are coming up or not. Let me open the console for this one as well. They are booting up and taking a little time. Let me see what are those process they are trying to start. Okay, so they are starting. So now I'm going to open a putty. Yeah, so IP is already started, so I'm good. I think 192.168, 169, 166 is the IP for node 1. And I'm going to use 192, 168, 169, 167 for node 2. Okay, so let me close those consoles because I know I don't need those consoles now. Sorry. Okay, so now I have both the system. Let me expand this session a little, probably. Okay, so yeah, minus O plus dev underscore size. Here I can see the disk with the size of 2 MB which I have assigned on both the node, and it should show here also. So here also it is saying the same thing. Great. So next part is I have to create a file /etc sysconfig sbd. Okay, inside this location I have to select sbd underscore device equal to, I have to specify the disk name Okay, so disk is dev sdb, so this is the disk I'm going to use, and the other option is sbd underscore opts ops. So sbd option, so what are the svd options I'm going to use? So here is your option. Okay, so I'm going to use these are the options. Let me copy and paste it here. Right, so let me ensure this changes has been updated in the other node also. SBD. Okay, so enter encryption key. What is this? Okay, let me save this here. So now I can see on both the node. I'll just run this command. This for loop command helps when you use multiple nodes. So here it is only 2 nodes, so it will not help much. I'm just going to show you this one because if you are using multiple nodes it is going to help you. $I in double quote, I wanted to check get slash etc is config sbd. Okay, so I wanted to see this whether this changes are same or not on both the nodes. So sbd device, fine. So now I'm good with both the nodes. Now I'm going to create the device sbd -d slash dev to specify the disk name. That's why I use -d, and sdb the disk name, and I will say create. So once I say this, it is created, so you don't need to create the same thing in other node. So if you run this, it is created. Great. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to let me check the status first. Let's dev sdb list is not showing, dump is showing. So dump it is showing your this information, the 10-second which I have specified for MSC byte. Okay, so default others are default taken. Okay, so if I do a crm configure show and see the current settings, so now it is already there, so that means I have already updated. So let me see, it is already stopped, I guess. Status is stopped, and now I have to start. It is started. Let me see in the other node 2 whether it is running or not. So node 2 also it is running. Let me restart. Only in node 2, so I run only in node 2, and it says failed. So let me check the status for node 2. So let me go to node 2 and see why it is not starting. First thing is I will check the same thing, this it is showing here, and second thing I will see whether the disk is correctly mentioned. It is mentioned, but for some reason I'm unable to start. So here while trying to start the SPD it is failing. So okay, great, so it is started now. Let me it is running. I'm not sure earlier why it got failed. Okay, so this primitive it is already showing here because I think I have updated this one earlier, so that's why it is already it is in started state. So let me stop and I will going to show you how to update in cluster configuration. So I'm going to stop this service and now it is stopped, so I'm good to delete this CRM configure edit, delete this 3 line and also this one. I think we are good. Save. Yes, not sure what is. Looks like everything correct, but while saving I'm getting edit primitive line, operation line, meta and stone it. Yeah, so stone it timeout I haven't removed, but it is giving the same thing. Let me no edit. Let me do it in other way. So edit stone it device. So removed, saved. Yeah, so let me now see. Yeah, so I think I have removed it. So inside this you are not able to see the full list of resource. It is nothing here. Fine. So next what I'm going to run, and I'm going to show you how to create primitives. So you have a command from command shell from, you can do it from Hawk and also from CRM GUI, but for now I'm going to show you command line how to create that. Okay, so CRM configure, and if you go inside CRM configure you will see primitive. If you do ls, here you'll be able to see primitive. Okay, so I'm going to create primitive, and before that exit, I'm going to show you something. CRM configure show. Here the stoneit is not saying, so stoneit enable it is equal to true, it is saying. So what I was supposed to do here, okay, the last field. Okay, so I'm going to enable the stoneit here. So it is already enabled, so let me disable it first. CRM configure property stoneit enable equal to false. So if you now check, it is false. So now I'm going to make this enable. Let me copy and go to this file partition and CRM configure. You have to go inside this cell prompt and you have to run CRM started enable equal to true, right? And you can also, once you've done that, you have to save this settings, running commit command and exit. So now if you run show and grab it for started enable, you'll be able to see it is true. Okay, so likewise you can also run this command in single line, CRM configure properties started false or true. So currently it is true and I'm going to make it false. Now if I run this command, I'll see false. False means it is not active, correct? So I'll make this again as true and now it is enabled, so and equal to true, so it is active now. So first changes I have done. So now I need to create primitives for storage. So now if I do crm underscore resource, just to show you one more time before creating, it is saying no resource configured, so I'm going to create a resource now. So timeout is okay, I don't need to specify, it's okay if you don't, it is not mandatory option. So next I'm going to create a primitive for storage. So I have to go to crm configure cell first, crm configure, and once you are in this cell, run this command. So it is created storage primitive name is storage underscore spd, and this is the array type, resource agent type, and operation interval is 0, timeout is 15 seconds, and start delay, if it is not starting in 5 seconds, it will going to fail. Okay, so I have made this change. So once I made this change, next part is I have to commit this for save. So once I commit, it is saved. So now if I say bye, I come out from this command prompt, and what is the default operation? Okay, so if I just run, it is saying started. So that means I have successfully created the primitive for storage. So here you can see it is running here, node 1 it is showing. Okay, so this is how you have to create your primitive for storage. Okay, so next thing what I'm going to check is sbd minus d slash dev sd sbd dump. I think I have shown you this configuration settings. You can see also the wwid. You have one more command, but I think here it will not show. We'll get, yeah, so here it is only showing that disk OS disk UID. So if you wanted to see that storage wwid, so you can use this. And you probably can confuse about the disk. Probably you have seen other people, they have configured the SPD device and specify the SPD device through wwid, or by ID they have specified. So there is two multiple ways. I mean, you can specify the device name also, and you can also use the wwid, which is here. So you can use wwid also. You have to specify the full path for device disk this by ID, I believe, UID, and if you enter this, so what you have to do, you have to specify slash dev disk by UID and the ID. So we have to specify the full ID. to mention in this file. So two way you can do. So the other way I was supposed to show you is sbd minus d slave sbd list this sbd sdv. So this is the command where you can see this disk is also available in node 1 and also in node 2. So it's correct. So you can see like this. And now the next thing what I wanted to show you is to test whether your SBD device which you create to act as a fencing device, and you wanted to check or test whether that fencing device is functional or not, whether it is communicating to other node, and in case of failure, if one node goes down, whether it will kick the other node, whether node 2 will kick 0 1 or not for reboot. The default action is reboot, right? So if you just run sbd, not sbd, so currently I'll just do a ping localhost. It is pinging and I just wanted to kick this node crm node fence node 2, right? So if I do this and it is asking whether I'm going to shoot the other node. Okay, so one more other thing is stoneit. The acronym for stoneit is shoot the other node in head. So this is the acronyms for stoneit, the agent which we use in Suse HAE cluster. Okay, so when I run this command, it will just shoot the other node in head. It will not going to gracefully bring down, or it will not going to gracefully bring down. It will directly shoot this node in head, and it will just power off in fraction of second, and the system will go down, and the system will next action is going to boot up. Then the system will next, what it will do, it will boot up. So that is why you won't be able to see, like, let me open the console to demonstrate that. Okay, this is node 2 console. I have it, and this is my partition where I'm going to shoot the other node, and I say yes. Once I say that, in fraction of second it went directly powered off. Right now it is trying to boot the system up. So that means the stoneit device for this cluster which we have configured, it is functional, and currently you are seeing this other node 2 is offline. So it is working. Let me boot the system up, and the system is booting up. So, and also you wanted to check the status in every 1 second. CRM on, just do R, and it is trying to boot the other node up. The system is coming up, IP is up, but the OpenAI service is still not started. Here it is online, and node 2 is saying node status is pending. Now you can see both the node is a part of this cluster. So the node is up. So this is how you can test whether your SBD stoneit fencing which you have created, whether it is functional or not, right? So, and Yeah, the other options, you can configure this from your GUI session. I mean, if you are using web browser, from there also you can check, just check for RC hawk status and copy this IP, and you have to log in with your username and password. Default username is HA cluster and password, default password is Linux. Just log in. And here you can see the status turn is equal to true, and one resource is running. This resource name is Tonit. Okay, so I'm going to have a different session for especially for Hawk, and we have also one more uh, GUI based setup in HAE cluster, through which we can manage your cluster, HAE cluster. So I'm going to cover both this GUI type from where you can configure or you can manage your cluster. So for now it is just a basic. This is now you can log in and you can see your resource group status here. If you go to the settings section, I just clicked, it is pretty slow now. Okay, so the primitive is this one, and if you wanted to edit, you can edit it, or if you want to delete, you can delete. Okay, so this was it for today's topic and today's to this video. Okay, so please try to configure in your system and let me know if you have any difficulties to configure this Stoneit Dispex fencing device, and write your doubts or your issues in your in YouTube comment section. I will try to get back to you. Okay, so thank you so much for watching this video. Have a good day.